I seem to be buying a lot of books recently. There's 2 bookmarks in there. One is, okay. Jesus. My criminies. Are you kidding me? What is happening? Anyways, it comes out Hello and welcome to another video. My name is Heather and as always I'm reading with a vengeance and I hope you are too. Today's video I'm going to talk to you about the books that are on my nightstand and why they're there. My last video I happened to record right next to my nightstand and people asked, what are all the books on your nightstand? So I thought, okay, I'll share that with you. And the books that you can see in that video, they were not all the books on my nightstand. I had actually 3 stacks, one of which I moved to the floor so that I could do that video without looking like I live like a hobbit, but I do. I don't live like a hobbit, but my nightstand would indicate otherwise. Anyways, I have a few books on my nightstand and they're there for reasons and I'm going to tell you about them. But I realized when I was moving that stack of books that I have acquired a lot of books since my last book haul. I don't do a lot of book haul videos. I don't like to encourage book hoarding. But when you work at a bookstore where one of the benefits is you get free access to advanced readers copies and damaged books that are going to be donated, I have acquired a lot of books since I've worked there. They go in and out. I read them and then I donate them or put them back or put them in a little free library or give them away or whatever, but they don't stay. But I can't read them as fast as I pull them in. Anyways, I realized I'm going to also do a book haul video, probably right after I record this. But for this video, I wanted to share with you what's on my nightstand. So let's get started. The first book that is on my nightstand is a book that I actually bought. I don't buy a lot of books anymore, but when I do, they're for good reason. This is Stitch Stars, over 20 unofficial embroidery patterns for Stitchy superfans of Harry Styles. And I would consider myself a super fan of Harry Styles. I adore Harry Styles and I love to embroider. I'm very crafty. I knit, I crochet, all the things. And I also embroider. And I thought it would be fun to, I don't know, put something like this on the pocket of my jeans or something. So I thought it was pretty cool. It's got some really cool patterns. Oh my God, like, come on. Put that on a tote bag. So that's the first book on my nightstand. It's on my nightstand because I just bought it and I wanted to flip through it. So I'm probably going to put it with my other crafty books. Next book is an ARC that I'm going to read for October. It is called Clean by Alia Trabuco Zaran. This is a translation. It is a book that comes out this month, October. It comes out October 15th. And we are required at work to read 1 ARC per month and review it on Edelweiss. It's called a requirement, but I mean, to me, it's more of a benefit. But because of the requirement, I tend to pick up books that I maybe wouldn't normally pick up. But anyways, this is the book that I'm going to read and review for October. Did I bring my glasses in here? Oh, I have a pair of glasses. Anyway, so this says, from a global star and International Booker Prize finalist, a razor-sharp, unforgettable novel about a family at a breaking point and a maid who's seen too much. Estella came from the countryside to work for the Senor and Senora when their daughter was born. For 7 years, she did their laundry, scrubbed their floors, cooked their meals, kept their secrets. She witnessed the Senora's coldness, the Senor's distance, the family's fights and frictions. She heard the rats scrabbling in the ceiling, knew about the poison in the cabinet and the gun. Now the daughter is dead and the maid is being interrogated, but is her testimony a confession or an act of revenge? Class warfare or a cautionary tale? Building tension with every page, Clean is a gripping, incisive exploration of power, betrayal, and the hidden terrors of the home. So I'll be reading this hopefully by October 15th. So not my next wrap up, but likely the wrap up after that. I'll be telling you guys about it. Next book is Knitting Yarns, Writers on Knitting, edited by Anne Hood. This has been sitting on my nightstand for a couple of months. They're just essays written by authors who write about their experiences with knitting. I actually bought this book as well. I thought that would be interesting. Barbara Kingsolver is in here. So I'm just kind of slowly making my way through it. I've read maybe 5 of the essays and I'm really enjoying it, hearing not only other people's experiences with knitting, but authors' experiences with knitting. So I read a story maybe once a week, so it's probably going to be on my nightstand for a little while longer. Next book that was on my nightstand probably won't be on there anymore. I'm not even sure why this was on my nightstand. I think I was trying to decide between Clean and this one on which arc I was going to read for October, and I decided on Clean, so now this can go back on the shelf. This is The Blue Hour by Paula Hawkins. I don't know if you can kind of see, there's also lettering, but it's the same color as the book. It says, "When nothing is as it appears." Got sprayed edges. It's really a beautiful arc. I mean, for an arc. This came in my goodie bag at the Women's Prize for Fiction. Yeah, this comes out in October. I'm not sure what day. I think it's towards the end of the month, but I decided on reading Clean this month. So this one won't get read, who knows, until when. I've only read Paula Hawkins' The Girl on the Train. I haven't read any of her other stuff. Have you guys had more experience with Paula Hawkins other than The Girl on the Train? I would love to know your thoughts. Perhaps bump this up my list. This is probably going to not go back to my nightstand and go to my regular shelf after I complete this video. This one was on the ARC shelf and I grabbed it just because, other than reading and crafting, I also like to do crossword puzzles. I'm a 3rd generation crossworder. My grandmother did the New York Times every day. My mom did the New York Times every day, continues to do it every day. And I used to, for years, do the New York Times crossword puzzle and the daily crossword puzzle every single day without fail. I don't do it every day, but every once in a while I'll pick one up. I love crossword puzzles, and when I saw this, I thought, oh, it's an entire book of New York Times crossword puzzles. So every once in a while I'll pick one up, and that's why that's on my nightstand. This is another book that I actually purchased, and I bought it because I bought it for a couple of reasons. I bought this specific book because Lena Norms raved on and on about it. She's a really big proponent of being good to our environment, being good to our planet. And she read this book and said it was outstanding on the subject. And I have on my list of 24 books to read in 2024, a number of nonfiction books. And I don't think I've read any nonfiction besides celebrity memoirs this year yet. And so I wanted to make sure that the very next nonfiction book I read was this one, and that is We Are the Weather by Jonathan Safran Foer. Saving the planet begins at breakfast. Some people reject the fact, overwhelmingly supported by scientists, that our planet is warming because of human activity. But do those of us who accept the reality of human-caused climate change truly believe it? If we did, surely we would be roused to act on what we know. Will future generations distinguish between those who didn't believe in the science of global warming and those who said they accepted the science but failed to change their lives in response? The task of saving the planet will involve a great reckoning with ourselves, with our all too human reluctance to sacrifice immediate comfort for the sake of the future. We have turned our planet into a farm for growing animal products, and the consequences are catastrophic. Only collective action will save our home and way of life, and it all starts with what we eat and don't eat for breakfast. So I think this one's going to be interesting. I think it's going to be written in a way that's a little bit more accessible than perhaps a scientist writing it, because he's a novel writer, he's a fiction writer, and I could just be pulling that right out of my butt. I'm going with it. Next on my nightstand is Stephen King's Skeleton Crew. This is one of his collection of short stories. It's been around for quite a while. I've read them already before, but a few months ago, my stepson came up to visit and he expressed interest in reading The Body, which is the short story in which the movie Stand By Me was based on. So the body's not in this one, and I ended up ordering that collection for him. But then we got to talking about short stories, and I said my favorite short story by Stephen King is The Jaunt, and then he expressed interest in that. So I ordered this book, but before I send it to him, I wanted to kind of reread a couple of the short stories, specifically The Jaunt. And I also wanted my husband to read some of Stephen King's short stories because he's never read any of them. So I am rereading a couple of Stephen King short stories every once in a while. So that's why this is on my nightstand. Ultimately, this is going to go to my stepson, but not before I enjoy it for a little bit of time. Okay, these last 4 books just made it to my nightstand within the last week, and there's a specific reason for that. This first one I picked up. It is an ARC. It is a book that comes out on October 15th. I picked it up. Well, I'll tell you why I picked it up in a moment. But it is The Interpretation of Cats, Understanding the Psychology of Our Feline Companions by Dr. Claude Beata. So I don't know if you follow my Instagram, but I am the new rescuer of a kitten that was abandoned and found by people on the side of the road in downtown Savannah. And long story short, I took her in, and my husband is completely smitten, and I love her. Her name is Lucy. Go to my Instagram. It's an entirely different video to share that whole story and saga, but I now have a kitten in the house. She's in her room. I'll introduce you guys in another video, but I saw this ARC and I said, well, I think both my husband and I would benefit in reading something like this, and it just sounds interesting. And the cover is hilarious. So I guess he is a veterinary psychiatrist. A veterinary psychiatrist? What? I didn't even know there was such a thing. Anyways, the relationship between humans and cats has never been simple. Cats are contradictory creatures, curious and aloof, independent and affectionate, predator and prey. Their true nature continues to elude us, and their subtle and complex behavioral problems can often seem unsolvable or incomprehensible. So how can we tell when our pets are suffering? How can we understand their aggression? And how can we treat patients who can't speak for themselves? In this fascinating book, a bestseller in its native France, veterinary doctor and psychiatrist draws on cutting-edge research and decades of experience to revolutionize our understanding of cats and transform our appreciation of feline mental well-being. Here we meet Nougatine, a Siamese with an aggressive streak, Tabitha, a ragdoll with separation anxiety, and Melly, an Abyssinian struggling with a feline form of schizophrenia, as well as their owners who seek advice and support. Through their stories, Dr. Beata takes us inside the minds of cats, helping us to improve our relationships with them and love them even more. That should be fun. I think my husband and I should read this together. This next book I bought this specific book because my husband and I watched a trailer for a new show that's going to be coming out on Peacock, and it looks really, really good. It's called Teacup. We're very excited for the show to come out. Seems very much our speed. It's a sci-fi horror show. And I thought to myself, I wonder if it's based on anything. And sure enough, I looked it up. It's based on a Robert McCammon book called Stinger. If you watched me for a while, you know that one of my all-time favorite books is written by this author, and that is Boy's Life. So I am super excited to read this. It wasn't in our bookstore. I had to order it. It just came in the other day, and I can't wait to get to it. An extraterrestrial bounty hunter turns a southern community into its private hunting ground in the ultimate horror novel. The West Texas desert towns of Inferno and Bordertown have been slowly dying. Snake River isn't the only thing that divides them. Racism and gang wars have turned the sun-scorched flatlands into a powder keg. If anything can unite them now, it's the UFO that comes crashing through the clouds. It brings with it a young alien named Dauphine, a fugitive who has taken human form. She knows the terror that awaits this planet because it's looking for her. Stinger is an alien bounty hunter with an infinite capacity for death and a devious plan to find Dauphine. Entombing the region in an inescapable dome, Stinger unleashes a violent fury unknown to humankind. Now, the few remaining survivors must come together to protect Dauphine themselves and the world beyond. I cannot wait to get into this. I hope I have time to read it for spooky month. I really haven't had time to read spooky reads for October, but fortunately my spooky reads kind of bleed into November. I really hope to read this sooner rather than later because as soon as the show comes out, I'm going to want to watch it, and I prefer to read it first. So these last two books on my shelf, they're just arcs that I grabbed off the shelf that sounded interesting. This first one, it's called Punished by Anne-Helene Lastadius, author of a book called Stolen, which sounds familiar. It's not one that I have read, but this is also a translation, translated by Rachel Wilson Broyles. Yeah, this one doesn't come out until February of 25. In the 1950s, near the Arctic Circle, 7-year-olds John Ante, Else Maj, Nilsa Marge, and Anne Riston are taken from their families. As children of Sami reindeer herders, the Swedish state has mandated they attend a nomad school, where they are forbidden to speak their native language. Their parents know little about the abuse they face, much of it at the hands of the house mother, Rita, and those who dare to speak up are silenced. 30 years later, the 5 children have chosen different paths to cope with the past. Elsa Maj holds strong in her Sami identity, but has turned to religion for comfort, while Anne Riston now goes by Anne to hide her heritage from friends. Nilsa herds reindeer like his father, but harbors a lot of anger, and John Ante struggled with traumatic memories from the school. Then there's Marge, who is about to adopt a daughter from Colombia, but can't help questioning if it's right to take a child from her homeland. Then suddenly, house mother Rita reappears. Now, an old, frail woman claiming to have God on her side, she acts like nothing ever happened. As the narrative shifts between each of their perspectives, the novel asks, if you had the chance to punish the person who hurt you as a child, would you? Based on the author's family story, Punished is a searing novel about loss, memory, cultural erasure, and community that vibrates with righteous rage over one nation's greatest betrayals of its native people. This one sounded super intriguing, and I feel it's going to pack a punch. So that's just been sitting on my nightstand because I wanted to read the synopsis, and now I have. And then the other arc that I picked up, this one is called Saint of the Narrows Street by William Boyle. This one also comes out in February 2025. I don't think I've read this author. Gravesend, Brooklyn, 1986. Risa Franzoni lives in a ground floor apartment on Saint of the Narrows Street with her bad seed husband Saverio and their 8-month-old baby Fabrizio. Risa is a loving mother, a faithful wife, a saintly neighbor, but lately her husband's slow dive into criminality and abuse has threatened her peace, raising concerns about her and her baby's safety. On the night her younger sister Julia moves in with Risa to recover from a bad breakup, a fateful accident occurs. Risa, boiled over with anger and fear, strikes a drunk, erratic Sav with a cast iron pan, killing him on the spot. The sisters are left with a choice: notify the authorities and make a case for self-defense, or bury the man's body and go on with their lives as best they can. In a moment of panic, in the late hours of the night, they call upon Sav's childhood friend, the sweet, loyal Christopher Chooch Gardini, to help them, hoping they can trust him to carry a secret like this. Over the vast dramatic expanse of the next 18 years, life goes on in the working-class Italian neighborhood of Gravesend as Risa, Julia, and Chooch grapple with the choice they made that night, and each forge a different path when the cracks of a supposedly seamless cover-up begin to reveal themselves. Sounds really good, sounds really gritty. It reminds me of an old Demi Moore movie. It was Demi Moore and Bruce Willis, and it was about a woman, I believe, who kills her husband, and her and her best friend try to cover it up, and he was abusive. What was the name of that movie? I'm gonna look it up and I'll put it at the bottom. Did you guys see that movie? It sounds a lot like that, but anyways, it sounds really good, and so that's why that was on my nightstand. I probably, if I read this one and Punished, it'll be closer to February, just because there's just too many arcs to read every month, to read in time to do my review before the book comes out. Speaking of movies, I didn't really think of it until I saw the cover of this book, but when it mentions a protective dome over the town, and then you actually see the dome on this cover, it reminds me of Stephen King's The Dome. Wasn't it called The Dome? Which I read, and it was really good, and it was very similar. I don't remember who the villain was in that book, but it was a dome over the town, but nobody could get out. but nobody could get in either. I think the dome also was sci-fi. I don't remember. I digress. Anyway, those are the books that are on my nightstand. I hope that quenched your curiosity. Have you read any of these books? I would love to hear your thoughts on them. I am going to now record a book haul video. Oh my God, and talk about the plethora of books that have come into my possession in the past few months. Please let me know what thoughts you have, if any, about these books that I've shared with you. What's on your nightstand? I would love to know. Or you could just say hi down in the doodly-doo. Oh, and one other thing. I have turned off the comments for the giveaway video. So everybody who's entered, that's it. I'm going to make sure, check that everybody has subscribed and done all the things they're supposed to do. My next wrap-up video is when I will share the winners of the giveaway. So that is it for now. I hope all of you are doing very, very well. As always, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate all of you, and I will see you all next time. Bye-bye.